here. Now, so we have the Memorial Day, as I've said, for the fallen soldiers. And then what else? As I've said, tomorrow is the 60th anniversary of our country as an independent nation. And let me talk something about that. And then we are going to pay our tributes. I'm going to pay my tributes to my fallen comrade, CC. You know, let me say this. I remember 1966 Independence Day very, very well. I was a little boy, well, just 10 plus. And all the joy, you know, that erupted around the country, the bands, the music, the dancing and all of that, masquerade bands going around. It was a joyous, joyous occasion. But, you know, in reflection, we have to ask, what have we achieved in all these years? Definitely not unity. We are more divided now than ever. More divided now than ever. That is my belief, and many people will concur that we are more divided at this time than ever. I understand that for the, you know, on the 25th, on the night of the 25th, it was on the night of the 25th of May 1966 that they had the big ceremony at the National Park where the Union Jack, which is the symbol of the British, call it the British flag, was lowered, and the golden arrowhead was hoisted for the first time. That golden arrowhead was hoisted by no other than young Desmond Roberts. I think he was a lieutenant. I'm going to read something in a short while, right? Desmond Roberts. So as the Union Jack was lowered, Desmond Roberts hoisted the golden arrowhead in Guyana for the first time. Also, at the same time, I understand in London, at, I think it's Westminster Abbey, Fabian Liverpool, Fabi as we call him, he marched up the aisles along with some others, and they took the flag there, the golden arrowhead, because at the time, based on what is being said, he was a student at the Royal College there, the Sandhurst Royal Military College, the young officers, right? And I saw something, it was on the 23rd on social media, and it is headlined, Independence Heroes Overlooked in Guyana's Diamond Jubilee Celebrations. So they're saying, and I'm going to read it, because it's important for me to understand what it is. They're saying that the many people who were there at Independence Day and played a significant role, like hoisting of the flag and all of that, they are no way, they haven't been even mentioned in this Diamond Jubilee celebrations. I understand that the celebrations will be held at Fort Island. Can you imagine that? Fort Island that many people don't have access to. Many people. Long ago, it was always held at the National Park, the place where the flag was hoisted for the first time. National Park, and the whole of Georgetown and its environs would turn out. There were also activities, sometimes of them simultaneous, in the regions. Region 6 and major regions. All the regions, they do a flag raising. I think they also had soldiers going to Mount Ayangana, I think it was, and planted the national flag, all of those things. But the thing is downplayed now, because when you take this significant national event to Fort Island, how many people can get there to observe? How many? I'm asking them for they should tell us how many. You are depriving most of the people. Oh, they're gonna say in this age now of digital age, they're gonna stream it, but can that have the same effect? Can that have the same effect? I mean, if we reflect on what took place when we celebrated our Golden Jubilee, 10 years ago at the Durban Park with that massive, massive golden arrowhead, which will remain etched in many of our memories, right? But that is what it is now. So here what the article says, it's a little lengthy, but I think it is important that I read it and for you to understand, especially the younger ones. Yeah, they say Guyana's preparation to commemorate the 60th anniversary of independence on May the 26th have sparked concerns that some of the nation's most important living links to the historic achievement, along with opposition parties, organized labor, and civil society, have been excluded from the center of the official celebration or celebrations. Among them are retired Colonel Desmond Roberts and retired Lieutenant Colonel Fabian Liverpool, two men whose contributions are inseparable from Independence Day itself. And this is what the two gentlemen look like now. This is retired Colonel Desmond Roberts, the man who hoisted the golden arret for the first time. And this is Lieutenant Colonel Fabian Liverpool, Fabi, as we call him, who had a role to play on that historic day. So it would appear, based on this article, that they have not been included in the activities. Living legends, they have not been included. Now let me go on with the article. Roberts, then a 20-year-old second lieutenant in the Guyana Defense Force, was entrusted with raising the golden arret at midnight on the 25th of May, 1966, at the National Park in Georgetown. Oh, no. Hold on, somebody calling me now. I can't. These people call at the most inappropriate time. Let me continue there. 25th National Park, formally ushering Guyana's independence. At virtually the same moment in London, Liverpool, then an officer cadet at the Royal Military Academy Sandhurst, carried the golden arrowhead down the aisles of Westminster Abbey during a special independent service organized by Guyana's High Commissioner to the Court of St. James, Sir Lionel Lockwood, accompanied by fellow officers cadet Haydock West and Harry Hines. He presented the new nation's flag to members of the Guyanese diaspora gathered in the Abbey. Together, the two young soldiers symbolized Guyana's emergence as a sovereign nation, one raising the flag at home and the other presenting it abroad. Yet neither appears to have been given a prominent role in the official Diamond Jubilee program. The concern extends beyond the two military officers. Also reportedly absent from the list of invitees for the planned independence flag-raising ceremony is former Prime Minister and former Mayor of Georgetown, Hamilton Green, the last surviving members of the leadership cadre that negotiated and secured Guyana's independence. Green participated in the final independence conference in London, where the constitutional arrangements and date for independence were settled before British Guyana formally became Guyana on May the 26th, 1966. Equally striking is the reported exclusion of UC Quayana, formerly Sidney King, the only surviving members of the legislature elected under the historic 1953 Waddington Constitution. Now a centenarian, Quayana represents a living connection to British Guyana first experiment with universal adult suffrage and ministerial government, critical milestones on the road to self-government and independence. Together, these individuals represent living links to the military, constitutional, and political milestones that culminated in nationhood. Yet, none appears to have been afforded a central place in the national celebrations. The issue, observers argue, extends far beyond individual invitations. Independence was not won by government alone. It was achieved through decades of sacrifice by workers, trade unionists, political activists, religious organizations, civic groups, and ordinary citizens who challenged colonial rule and demanded democratic representation and self-government. The labor movement's contribution began long before the emergence of modern political parties. Under the leadership of Hubert Nathaniel Critchlow. Hold on, I'm getting interrupted. Under the leader of Hubert Nathaniel Critchlow, let me find Critchlow, workers launched the campaign for one man, one vote, and internal self-government in 1926, almost a quarter of a century before the formation of the Guyana's first mass-based political party, the People's Progressive Party, which was done in 1950. The significance of that struggle was highlighted on Labor Day, May 1, when the Guyana Trade Unions Congress, GTUC, commemorated the centenary of the campaign under the theme 100 Years Fighting for One Man, One Vote, 1926 to 2026, Hubert Nathaniel Critchlow and Workers. The movement's advocacy for democratic representation, constitutional reform, workers' rights, and internal self-government laid much of the foundation upon which the latter independence struggle, or the later independence struggle, was built. Political leaders such as Cheddi Jagan, Forrest Burnham, and Peter DeGar played pivotal roles in the constitutional and political battles that culminated in nationhood. Churches, civic organizations, educators, farmers, public servants, and countless ordinary citizens also contributed to the creation of the independent state. However, observers contend that the official independence celebration under President Irfan Ali have become increasingly government-centric, with little visible effort to involve the political opposition, independent civic society, surviving participant in the independence struggle, and the broader trade union movement. Particular concern has been raised over the apparent absence of any meaningful role for the People's National Congress, under whose former government Guyana attained independence on May 26, 1966, and which today forms part of the parliamentary opposition. Further, the GTUC has not been given a meaningful role in the national celebrations, despite representing the labor tradition that spearheaded the struggle for universal adult suffrage and internal self-government decades before the emergence of modern party politics. Observers argue that sidelining the GTUC overlooked the historic contributions of workers and organized labor, while exclusion of PNC ignores the political movement that led the government under which independence was ultimately achieved. Together, they contend these omissions diminish the broad coalition of political, labor, and civic forces that contributed to Guyana's journey to nationhood. Independence is the one national occasion that should transcend partisan politics. A mature national observance would recognize not only those who currently hold office, but also those who helped to build the nation, whether through constitutional negotiations, labor activism, political leadership, civic engagement, or military service. 60 years after the Golden Arret was first hoisted in Georgetown and ceremonially presented at Westminster Abbey, Guyana still has the privilege of hearing directly from men and women who participated in that defining chapter of our history. The question is why so many of them appear to have been left on the sidelines during the nation's Diamond Jubilee celebration. A little long read, but I think it is necessary for me to do that so you can understand. I did some research and I found, let me show you one of the things. I know, and this one in particular, hold on, where it is. Guyana independence. Let me show you this. The CC, the person who we are mourning now, used to always say, Paul, try and find, there is a video with Forbes Burnham and Cheddi Jagan embracing on the night of the 25th of May, 1966. And I always promise to look for it. And as fate would have it, I found it yesterday. It is a little black and white thing. I don't think it has audio and all of that, but you can see. Let me show you what I'm talking about. Share the live. Let me show you what I'm talking about. What we saw there is Cheddi Jagan and Forbes Burnham embracing with joyous looks in their faces on the night of the 25th of May, 1966. Embracing joy for everyone, right? And then towards the end, we saw the golden arrowhead being hoisted by young Desmond Roberts, and the Union Jack being lowered by a representative of the British military, right? So we had that. That was on the 26th, 60 years, on the 25th, the midnight of the 25th, almost 60 years ago. But what we have now, what do we have now? A lot of division, despite what they talk about, a lot of division. Let me show you this picture too. This is a picture of Cheddi Jagan and Forbes Burnham shaking hands. Nowadays, to shake hands and to meet with the opposition leader is a big, big issue, right? So again, I ask the question, what have we achieved in all these years? What have we achieved? Some people have said despite the wealth, despite all the money, oil money in particular, we have retrogressed in terms of civility, in terms of how we interact as a nation. It look now that might is right. You get money, you do nothing, you can do no wrong. You get the majority of seats, or you are given the majority of seats, or you claim the majority of seats in Parliament, and that makes you beyond reproach. You're meeting with Parliament and all that. Incidentally, talking about Parliament, as I've said today, I'm going to deal with them things. But I noted that today is 100 days, exactly 100 days since Parliament last met. And I'm doing some research to talk about that on a subsequent program. Today is 100 days since Parliament last met. CC and I had planned to deal with that today, but as we say, things have happened. So we had that. Yeah, we had that, right? So again, I think let me show you this tape too. Let me show you this tape. This was a visit. I think this was a visit for the younger people. Look at it. The visit to, I think it's by one of the royals back in the lead up to independence. Here we go.
One of the most majestic wonders of the Americas, the Orinduik Falls in British Guiana. Gigantic even in this land of tremendous waterfalls. Vast sugar plantations not far away seem as though separated by centuries from the bustle of modern industry, which British Guiana affords elsewhere. For this fascinating country on the northeastern coast of South America vividly contrasts the old and the new. And where the 20th century has touched it only lightly, as if in passing, the older ways linger. The tempo remains leisurely, a facet of the Commonwealth appearing to disregard 1966. But Georgetown, the capital, no suggestion here that time stands still. The Royal Yacht Britannia was at the quayside, the royal standard proclaiming that Her Majesty was aboard. The head of the Commonwealth, greeted by the Governor, Sir Richard Late, had come to pay her long-promised visit to British Guiana, a royal visit conforming in these greetings to the pattern of such occasions. But for British Guiana, from the Governor and the members of his entourage, very gaily attired, down to ordinary people, this was indeed a very big day. The warm-hearted thousands of Georgetown cheered as the Queen and Duke drove to the public buildings. Completely confounded were the gloomy prophets who predicted that the reception would be tepid. It had been a triumphal progress all the way. The Queen's unforced charm and the natural friendliness of Prince Philip won the people's heart all along the route. There was another surge of enthusiasm when Her Majesty mentioned British Guiana's forthcoming independence next May. In the Legislative Chamber, Her Majesty unveiled a portrait of herself, commemorating the present visit. Prince Philip then unveiled his portrait. They will be a reminder of the independent government's link with Crown and Commonwealth. After that ceremony, the Queen and Duke drove to the Promenade Gardens, And on the way, there was more evidence that the people had totally disregarded the Progressive Party's advice to boycott the royal visit. In British Guiana, you don't have to go to the circus to see this sort of thing. There was another big crowd at the Gardens. A chance here for a lot of people outside government circles to meet the Queen and Duke at close quarters. Also, the mayors of Georgetown and New Amsterdam presented the wives of members of their councils. By train, the Queen and Duke went to the village of Plaisance. This line is one of the oldest in the world, laid down only a few years after the first railway in England. The Prime Minister accompanied them. There was not the least self-consciousness in the presentation of the bouquet. On royal tours, the next engagement is always Beckham. So eventually, it had to be goodbye to British Guiana. And what a wealth of goodwill and understanding the Queen and Duke left behind in this rapidly progressing country.
Yeah, so you saw that there, a little throwback to pre-1966 and 1966 itself, right? I have a song I wanted to play, but I'm not sure if I get it. Yeah, I have it here. And this is, back in the lead up to independence in 1966, Terry Nelson, I think he is or was a Fraser. The man from Afai, Omar Farouk, Yaz Alagala, all these names. Lot 1, Republic Drive, Benefo worked in that TVCH, GPTV. I think he was the founder. And he had this song that I must play.
We welcome, oh, we welcome independence today. Everybody, jump and be merry. Oh, we welcome independence today. Thank you, Britain, for the years of colonial ruling. We now sing songs of praise to remember those happy days. Independence has its purpose, which will not be a racial curse. We know there'll be ups and downs, but it is will soon settle down. We welcome, oh we welcome, oh we welcome independence to Guyana. Yeah. Everybody, jump and be merry. So we welcome independence to Guyana. Oh, let's go now, come on. We welcome, oh we welcome, oh we welcome independence to Guyana. Everybody, come and be merry. So we welcome independence to Guyana. Hip, 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 hooray! Hip, 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 hooray! Hip, 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 hooray! Oh we welcome independence to Guyana. Everybody, come and be
Yeah, that song brings back memories, Terry Nelson. We welcome independence to Guyana. And when you look at the parade, the soldiers marching there. I think back in the early days, only the members of the Guyana Defense Force took part in the flag raising at the national park. And then later, it was the Guyana Defense Force and the Guyana Police Force. I remember as a constable, I had my first independence parade. I think it would have been in 1975. Oh man, when you look on the board at TSU there and you saw your name among the persons selected to go on that parade, you were overjoyed because only the best of the best were selected to go there. You get your ceremonial and you prepare all day, you're bulbing your boots and you cleaning. In those days, I think when we started, we had rifle with rifle sling, white pop parts. You all remember pop parts, white toe, and those things to make sure your white rifle sling was lily white, and you cap and your cap. Well, the TSU cap was you had the red band with the white cover, and oh man, all day you prepared for that because leading up to it, you would have been in line. You can't go home until you. But you're glad you were there. You were happy, right? You were happy. And hey, let me tell you all this, the younger ones, if you all know, the younger police in particular, we went for the flag raising. You go to GDF. I think there was a bus that would take us to GDF. And we marched off from the Camp Payangana, Drill Square. Well, not the Drill Square, on the driveway. We fell in and we marched from there to the National Park. That was before midnight. So then the Prime Minister will come and inspect you. And then when they went in there now, we used to be marched back to Camp Payangana. They march us back to Camp Payangana. So during all the speeches and all of that, we, the members of the parade, were not at the place there, National Park. And then when it was time for it to be finished now, well, the first marching, I think, would have taken place before the arrival, around 10 or so, before the arrival of the Prime Minister and the dignitaries. And when they're done during the speech time, we were back at Camp Payangana. And then when it was time for the hoisting of the flag, we would have been marched back to the National Park. But let me tell you the rough, because when you go to, let me say you go back to Payangana there around 10 something, you have to wait a whole hour, 2 hours before you were taken back. Them soldiers get a back room, they go and take off the tunic and relax and so on. We, the policemen, used to go in a place there by the library. They had a library somewhere there, and we were left there. So you got to fend for yourself. If you had a soldier friend, they might carry you and thing. We used to then, many of us would take off our tunic, turn it back to front, and rest on it until it time. Yeah, those were days, man. Those were days. I got to remember those days. I have to remember those days. So yeah, so that's about the independence, I think.